They say the closer you are to a person, the easier it is to miss the shadows they cast. For 7 years, I believed my life was a masterpiece. I was the CEO of an elite investment firm in the heart of the city, a woman who built an empire from nothing. And by my side was Mark, my husband, my partner, the man who held my hand when my father passed away, the man who promised to protect my heart at all costs. But promises are just words, and words cost nothing. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where the sky turns the color of cold steel. Mark was supposed to be in Chicago for a 3-day corporate conference. He left early in the morning, kissing my forehead, telling me he would miss me. He forgot his personal tablet on the kitchen counter. It was completely dead. I didn't think much of it. I plugged it into the charger. A few minutes later, the screen lit up. A notification popped up. It wasn't a business email. It was a live security camera feed from a smart home application. The label on the camera read, "Home, Suburban Oasis." I frowned. We didn't own any property in the suburbs. Our penthouse was in the city center. Driven by a sudden cold instinct, I tapped the notification. The screen filled with a high-definition video of a beautiful, sunlit living room. A little girl, about 3 years old, was running across the carpet laughing. A moment later, a woman walked into the frame. She was young, elegant, carrying a tray of fruit. And then the front door opened. A man walked in. He dropped his briefcase. He scooped the little girl into his arms and kissed the woman deeply on the lips. It was Mark. He wasn't in Chicago. He was just 40 miles away, in a house I paid for, with a family I didn't know existed. In that exact moment, my world didn't shatter. It froze. A normal woman would have cried. She would have called him, screaming, demanding answers. She would have broken every plate in the kitchen. But I am not a normal woman. You don't survive in the world of high finance by letting your emotions dictate your moves. I sat at the kitchen table for 2 hours, watching the screen. I watched my husband play the role of the perfect father and the loving companion to another woman. I began to analyze. I opened my laptop and bypassed the security blocks on our shared corporate accounts. As the CEO, I had keys to doors Mark didn't even know existed. What I found was a masterpiece of financial betrayal. Over the last 3 years, Mark had been slowly, meticulously bleeding my company dry. He didn't do it directly. He used a network of shell companies, fake consulting invoices, and offshore accounts. Nearly $4 million had vanished from my firm, all of it redirected to fund his secret paradise, the luxury cars, the suburban mansion, the trust fund for a child that wasn't mine. It was all built on my blood, sweat, and tears. He thought he was a genius. He thought I was just a naive workaholic wife who trusted him too much to look at the fine print. He was wrong. When Mark called me that evening from his hotel room in Chicago, his voice was smooth. "Hey, honey," he said, sounding exhausted. "Just finished a long meeting. The weather here is terrible. How is your day going?" I looked at the tablet screen next to my laptop. On the live feed, he was sitting on the couch in his secret home, drinking a glass of expensive wine. I took a deep breath. My voice was soft, warm, and perfectly calm. "Everything is fine here, darling. The office was quiet. I miss you. Don't work too hard." "Always do, babe. See you in 2 days," he replied. He hung up. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back at me wasn't a victim. She was a hunter. Mark wanted a double life. I was going to give him exactly that. But I wasn't going to divorce him. A divorce would mean lawyers. It would mean splitting assets. It would mean he gets to keep a portion of what he stole. No, That was too easy. I wanted him to lose everything, his money, his reputation, his sanity, and both of his families. The game had officially begun, and Mark had no idea he was already trapped on my chessboard. The next morning, Mark returned from his business trip. He walked into our penthouse wearing his usual charming smile. He brought me flowers. He kissed my cheek. "I missed you so much," he whispered. I looked into his eyes. For years, I thought those eyes held love. Now I only saw the calculation of a thief. "I missed you too," I smiled back. My voice didn't tremble. My hands were steady. The game had begun, and I was the master of ceremonies. Instead of cutting off his access to my company's funds, I did the exact opposite. I opened the door wider, but I made sure that every dollar he took was a step closer to his destruction. At our investment firm, I casually dropped a piece of bait during our morning meeting. "We are looking into a new project," I announced to the board, looking directly at Mark, an offshore real estate development in Grand Cayman. High risk, but the returns are astronomical. I've created a private ledger for it. Only top executives can access it. I saw the spark in Mark's eyes. It was the hunger of a predator seeing an easy prey. Later that night, I watched him from the kitchen as he sat in his home office. He thought I was reading a book. In reality, I was monitoring his screen through a ghost software I had installed on his laptop. He was already transferring funds. He took $2 million from our main corporate reserve. He moved it into what he thought was the Grand Cayman private ledger. What he didn't know was that the ledger was a ghost account. It didn't belong to any bank. It was a closed digital loop that redirected the money straight into a personal trust fund I had secretly set up under my maiden name. He was stealing my money, only to put it directly into a bank account he could never touch. But stealing wasn't enough to destroy him. I wanted him to feel the walls closing in. I wanted him to lose his mind before he lost his freedom. The next step was psychological. I found out the name of his secret woman, Maya. She was 26, an aspiring artist. She genuinely believed Mark was a wealthy, unmarried venture capitalist who traveled constantly for business. Mark had built an entire fake identity for her. He called himself Marcus Vance. I didn't hate Maya. She was just another victim of his lies. But she was about to become the perfect tool in my hands. I hired a private investigator to drop an anonymous envelope into Maya's mailbox. Inside was a single key card to a luxury hotel room in the city center, with a note, "Marcus is waiting for you, room 404, Friday at 8 p.m. At the same time, I used a burner phone to send a text to Mark. "The Cayman project is compromised. Meet the auditor at Hotel Lumina, room 404, Friday at 8 p.m. Come alone or everything leaks." I set up a hidden camera inside room 404. On Friday night, I sat in my car outside the hotel, watching the live stream on my phone. Mark arrived first. He was sweating, looking around nervously, terrified that his financial fraud was about to be exposed. He unlocked the door and walked into the empty room. 5 minutes later, the door opened again. It was Maya. She smiled beautifully, wearing a stunning red dress, expecting a romantic getaway. Mark froze. The look of absolute terror on his face was a work of art. "Maya, what are you doing here?" His voice cracked. "Marcus, the note said you invited me," she said, confused, holding up the key card. Mark's mind was racing. He didn't understand what was happening. Was this a trap by the auditor? Was someone watching him? He began to panic. He grabbed Maya's arm roughly. "We have to leave, now. This is a mistake," he yelled. Maya was shocked by his aggression. She pushed him away, tears welling up in her eyes. "You're hurting me. What is wrong with you?" Mark didn't explain. He literally dragged her out of the room, looking at the ceiling, searching for hidden cameras. He was losing his cool. The paranoia was starting to set in. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to English Stories Hub. A simple like helps more people discover these stories, and your support inspires us to create new ones. Now, let's continue. When Mark came home that night, he looked like a ghost. His face was pale. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped his car keys on the floor. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I asked, pouring him a glass of water. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just a lot of stress at work. The market is volatile," he stammered, avoiding my gaze. "Don't worry," I said, rubbing his shoulders. I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Everything comes to light eventually. You just need to trust the process." He shuddered. He looked at me, searching my face for any sign of suspicion. But I gave him nothing but a warm, loving smile. The next phase of his nightmare was about to begin. Over the next week, I began to manipulate his environment. I knew his daily routine perfectly. When he went to sleep, I used a specialized software to slightly alter the GPS navigation in his car. The next morning, as he drove to work, the voice assistant suddenly changed routes. It guided him away from the highway and straight down the street, where his secret suburban house was located. He didn't realize it until he was stopping at a red light directly opposite his own secret driveway. Through the car window, he saw Maya standing outside talking to a man. The man was a corporate lawyer I had hired to pretend to be a real estate surveyor. Mark's heart nearly stopped. He slammed on the gas and sped away, running a red light. His phone rang. It was an unknown number. He answered it, his breath shallow. "Who is this?" A distorted digital voice spoke on the other end. "Nice house, Marcus, but foundations built on stolen money always crumble." Tick-tock. The line went dead. Mark pulled over to the side of the road, gripping the steering wheel. He was suffocating. He didn't know who was targeting him. Was it a business rival? Was it an extortionist? The beauty of the trap was that he could never suspect me. To him, I was the clueless wife who spent her days painting and managing accounts. He couldn't confess to anyone, because confessing meant admitting he was a thief and a bigamist. He was completely, utterly alone in his panic. But the final blow was scheduled for the upcoming annual gala of our investment firm. It was the biggest event of the year. All our clients, shareholders, and the media would be there. Mark thought he was going to use that night to finalize his theft and escape the country with his secret family. He had no idea that I had already invited a very special guest to sit at our main table. By the time the week of the gala arrived, Mark was a shadow of his former self. He had stopped sleeping. Every time his phone buzzed, he jumped. He began checking under his car for tracking devices. He even hired a private cybersecurity firm to sweep his office for bugs. Of course, they found nothing, because the spy wasn't a device in his wall. The spy was the woman sharing his bed. Every night, I watched him lie awake, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes he would quietly get out of bed, go to the bathroom, and throw up from pure anxiety. I enjoyed every second of it. One evening, while he was in the shower, his personal phone rang. It was Maya. I picked it up. "Hello?" I said, my voice sweet and polite. There was a long silence on the other end. "Who is this?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "I'm looking for Marcus." "Oh, you must have the wrong number," I replied smoothly. "This is Evelyn. I'm Mark's wife. There is no Marcus here." I heard a sharp gasp on the line, followed by the sound of Maya sobbing. Before she could say anything else, I hung up and deleted the call log from his phone. When Mark came out of the bathroom, I was sitting on the bed, holding his phone. His eyes widened in terror. He practically lunged at me to grab the device. "What are you doing with my phone?" he barked. I looked at him, simulating confusion and hurt. "Mark, it was just ringing. I was going to hand it to you. Why are you screaming at me?" He realized he had overreacted. He swallowed hard, trying to soften his tone. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I have a massive headache. The pressure at the firm is getting to me." "It's okay," I said, standing up and placing a hand on his chest. I could feel his heart hammering like a trapped bird. "The gala is in 2 days. After that, all your problems will be gone. I promise." The night before the gala, Mark made his final move. He initiated the transfer of the remaining $2 million from our company's emergency reserves. He booked 2 first-class tickets to Switzerland under the names Marcus and Maya Vance. He thought he was going to disappear right after the party, leaving me with a bankrupt company and a broken heart. He checked the ghost ledger. The screen showed transfer complete, balance $4 million. He smiled. For a brief moment, his paranoia vanished. He thought he had won. He thought he was free. He packed a small briefcase with his passport and financial documents, hiding it in the trunk of his car. The stage was set. The players were ready. It was time for the curtain to rise. The grand ballroom of the Grand Plaza Hotel was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over hundreds of elite guests. High-profile investors, media reporters, and city politicians filled the room. Mark looked immaculate in his custom tuxedo, but underneath the expensive fabric, he was sweating. His eyes darted nervously toward the exit every few seconds. He thought tonight was his grand escape. "You look tense, darling," I whispered, adjusting his bow tie. "Just excited for the firm's success," he lied, forcing a charming smile for a passing photographer. "Oh, the night hasn't even begun," I smiled back. "Our main table is full of surprises." I led him to the VIP table at the front of the stage. As we approached, Mark froze. His face drained of all color. His breath hitched in his throat. Sitting at our table, wearing a stunning black dress, was Maya. She wasn't looking at him with love. Her eyes were red from crying, filled with absolute fury. Next to her sat my private lawyer and 2 men in dark federal suits. "Evelyn, what is she doing here?" Mark stammered, his voice barely a whisper. He tried to turn around, but 2 security guards smoothly blocked his path behind him. "Sit down, Mark," I said, my voice dropping all warmth. It was cold as ice. "Let's enjoy the evening together, as a family." Mark was forced to sit. He looked at Maya, his lips trembling. "Maya, please. I can explain." "Save it, Marcus," Maya spat out, her voice dripping with disgust. "Or should I call you Mark, the married thief?" It was at that moment Mark realized the truth. The anonymous notes, the changed GPS routes, the phone calls. It wasn't a business rival. It wasn't an extortionist. It was me. "You." Mark stared at me, his eyes wide with horror. "You knew, the whole time." "I knew from the moment you forgot your tablet on my kitchen counter," I replied smoothly, sipping my champagne. "Did you really think you were smarter than me, Mark? You stole $4 million from my firm. You built a fake life using my hard work." "Evelyn, please," he pleaded, reaching for my hand. "We can fix this. Don't ruin us. The press is here. Think about the company's reputation." "I did think about the reputation," I said, leaning in close so only he could hear. "Which is why the company is perfectly safe. But you are not." Just then, the music stopped. The master of ceremonies took the microphone on stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual gala. Tonight we have a special presentation from our CEO, Evelyn Vance. She has an announcement that will change the future of our firm. The spotlight swung directly onto our table. The big screens on the stage lit up. Mark closed his eyes, preparing for his financial crimes to be broadcast to the entire city. He expected to see the fake Cayman ledger. He expected to see his offshore bank accounts. But what appeared on the screen was something entirely different. It was a live, high-definition video of the trunk of Mark's car, parked in the hotel garage. 2 police officers were standing over it. They opened his briefcase, revealing stacks of undeclared cash, fake passports under the name Marcus Vance, and encrypted hard drives containing stolen corporate data. The crowd gasped. Murmurs erupted across the ballroom. "As you can see," my voice echoed through the microphone I had smoothly taken from the waiter, "our vice president, Mark Vance, was planning a very long trip tonight. Unfortunately, he forgot to declare his departure to the authorities." Mark jumped out of his seat, but the 2 federal agents immediately grabbed his arms, pinning him down. The cameras flashed aggressively. The media rushed forward, recording every second of his public humiliation. "You think you won?" Mark screamed, paranoia completely taking over his mind. "You think you get to keep everything? I transferred the $4 million. It's in my Cayman ledger. You're ruined too, Evelyn. The firm is bankrupt." I stood up, looking down at him with pure pity. "Check your phone, Mark," I said quietly. One of the agents pulled Mark's phone from his pocket and held it up to his face. Mark stared at the screen. The Ghost Ledger application was open, but the balance didn't say $4 million anymore. The balance was 0. A notification from his secret bank account popped up. The $4 million had been completely reversed and legally transferred back into my firm's primary account. But that wasn't the biggest shock. Maya stood up from the table, walking over to me. She didn't look at Mark. Instead, she handed me a signed legal document. "Thank you, Evelyn," Maya said clearly. Mark looked between us, his mind completely breaking. "Maya, what is this? Did you really think a 26-year-old artist would accidentally find a keycard to a hotel room, Mark?" I laughed, a cold, victorious sound. "Maya and I have been talking for 2 weeks. When I showed her the financial records, when she realized you were using her to launder money and that her house was bought with stolen corporate funds, she made a choice." Maya looked at Mark, her expression stone cold. "You told me you loved me, but you were just using me as a shield for your crimes. Evelyn showed me the truth. I gave her all the access codes to your secret accounts. I gave her the keys to the house. Everything you built for me now belongs to her." Mark collapsed back into the hands of the agents. The double life he had meticulously created over 3 years had vanished in a single second. He had no money, no career, no reputation, and both of the women he tried to manipulate were now standing together, watching him fall. "Take him away," the federal agent ordered. Mark was dragged out of the ballroom in handcuffs, sobbing, shouting incoherently, completely destroyed in front of the most powerful people in the city. The crowd was silent for a moment, shocked by the sheer brilliance of the trap. Then, slowly, one by one, they began to applaud. Investors smiled, shareholders nodded in approval. I hadn't just saved my company. I had proven that I was a master strategist who could never be defeated. I raised my glass to the room. "To new beginnings," I said, "and to the reminder that every shadow eventually meets the light." Mark thought he was playing a game of chess against a naive wife. He never realized that I didn't just own the pieces. I owned the board. Thank you for spending your time with us. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment and let us know what you thought. We'd also love to hear what kind of stories you'd like to listen to next. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to English Stories Hub. A new story is coming soon, and we can't wait to share it with you. Thank you for your support, your comments, and for being part of our community. Until next time, take care and keep the stories alive.